The Senate President, Bukola Saraki, has read a letter from President Muhammadu Buhari to notify the Senate of his medical follow-up in London. According to the letter, which was read at the plenary, Buhari wrote that the length of his stay will be determined by the doctor advice, adding that Vice President Yemi Osibajo will coordinate the affairs of the country.
Dear distinguished Senate President, medical follow-up. In compliance with Section 145(1) of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, I wish to inform the distinguished Senate that I will be away for a scheduled medical follow-up with my doctors in London. The length of my stay will be determined by the doctor's advice. While I'm away, the Vice President will coordinate the activities of the government. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
Dissatisfied with certain area of the letter, Senator Mahonwa Buhari raised a point of order, saying there's nothing like coordinating vice president, as stated in the president's letter.
Mr. President, I don't think in our constitution we have anything like coordinating president or coordinating vice president. It's either you're a vice president or you are acting president. And any letter should be unambiguous and very clear. So I'm saying that this letter really does not convey anything, because coordinating has no space or any place in our constitution. It's either you tell us, and we've been having letters like this, you tell us he's the acting president in your absence so that we know who to deal with as a Senate. This is the high legislative body of any country. And if you're sending us later, it should be direct on unambiguous. So I'm saying that this letter for me is not right and maybe should be sent.
Reacting to this, Senate leader Ahmed Lawa, who cited Section 145 of the Senate order, said the letter followed the due process and issues should not rise from the matter.
Section 145, which the letter of the president referred to, reads, whenever the president transmits to the Senate, to the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, a written declaration that is proceeding on vacation, or that he is otherwise unable to discharge the functions of his office, until he transmits to them a writing declaration to the contrary, such functions shall be discharged by Vice President as acting president. It is as simple as that. Any other wording, Mr. President, in this letter or indeed anywhere else is irrelevant. I therefore feel that Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, has done what the Constitution requires him to do, and I urge the Senate not to go ahead to discuss this because it's not an issue. We have the budget and so many other serious issues for us to discuss, and Nigerians are waiting.
In another development, Senator John Enna from Cross River State informed the Senate of his defection from PDP to the ruling All Progressive Congress. His announcement was made during the plenary session on the floor of the Senate. He gave personal explanation and informed the Senate of his defection to APC.
The year 2017, in my ward, Agbokum Obi ward, Etung local government, Cross River Central, Cross River State, I formally, with my supporters, resigned from the People's Democratic Party and registered formally as a member of the APC.
Senator Eno represents Cross River Center and got elected in 2015 by PDP. Also, the report of the Senate Committee on Appropriation of 2017 budget have been laid before Senate.
A few hours after another 82 kidnapped girls of government secondary school Chibok that were until now in the hands of Boko Haram insurgents met with President Muhammadu Buhari after regaining their freedom, Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima has led a delegation of Borno indigents on a thank-you visit to the presidential villa to show appreciation for the commitment of this administration to the release of the girls. Receiving the delegation in Abuja, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said that this administration's commitment to rebuilding the Northeast is not in doubt, as there are now need for the review of the welfare packages to the victims of Boko Haram insurgents, especially Chibok community in Borno State, adding that current allocation for humanitarian services in the region was grossly inadequate to cater for the people whom he said had been traumatized as a result of the exposure to insurgent activities. Speaking earlier, the Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima said the delegation was in the villa to convey the mood and appreciation of the people of Borno State to the President, the armed forces and security personnel on their effort in securing the release of these girls, while expressing optimism that the remaining girls regain their freedom soon enough. On her part, the Minister of Women Affairs, Aisha Al-Hassan, who is in custody of the 21 girls released earlier, and the additional 82 girls, said her ministry is doing everything possible to make sure that the girls get best of medical care in order to be reunited with their parents.
In an effort to increase its tax efficiency, the federal government says it's working to bring the informal sector into tax nets. Nigeria's Finance Minister, Kemi Adeosun, who said this at the launch of the Regional Economic Outlook on Sub-Saharan Africa by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Abuja, explained that the move is part of government's effort to mitigate pressure on its resources, which is under considerable pressure with the fall in crude oil price from a high of $114 per barrel in mid-2014 to about $50 per barrel. With only 500,000 people paying tax out of its huge informal sector, the minister said it was time the country began to mobilize the revenue base of the sector.
If you look at the structure of Nigeria's tax base, we have about 13 million taxpayers, roughly. 12.5 million of them are what we call PAYE, people like yourselves, who have their tax deducted directly from their salary, which means that for the whole economy, we only have 500,000 people who are paying taxes who are either the upper cadre or the lower cadre, and that's where the problem lies. A lot of people have multiple incomes in Nigeria. Apart from their salary, they have businesses they run. The high net worth people tend to have many companies. They may only pay tax on one or two. So it's not just individuals paying tax, it's also companies paying the right tax. I think there's a fundamental acceptance in Nigeria that we are not paying the right level of tax for the size of our economy. And it's not aimed at squeezing those who are already paying. A good tax system makes everybody pay their fair share and then redistributes those proceeds through the provision of services. So sometimes the problem of why don't we have services is like the chicken and the egg. Which one came first? You don't have services because you don't pay for them. And then people say, well, we won't pay because we don't have the services. We have to break that cycle. The obligation to pay taxes is a legal one, and everybody has to pay their fair share. And if you have a system where the richest, who, because they can have advisors and so on, can evade taxes, then really the tax system can never work, because those who should put most into it are actually not doing so. And that's really what we're going to be trying to address. There'll be a lot more on it in forthcoming months. It's a major initiative of this government to get the tax to GDP ratio up, because that's what gives us the headroom to be able to do the social investments that we need for the Nigerian people. That's what gives us the headroom to actually go and contract to do our roads, our rail and our power, knowing that we can pay for it. That's the source of revenue. If we didn't have oil, we'd be paying tax. It's because we had oil, we ignored taxation. But now, as part of the ERGP, we're saying we'll take the oil and we also take the taxes, and then you have a much more robust and sustainable economy.
While noting that the 2016 was particularly difficult for many African countries, including Nigeria, Mrs. Adeosun stated that bold and necessary reforms were needed to overcome the slowdown, which analysts have described as the weakest growth experienced in 2 decades. She explained that the economic recovery and growth plan was one of the several efforts towards achieving these reforms.
I think the report was very clear that policy interventions have to be timely. to have impact. But I think the report was all equally clear that Africa really, and the report is about Africa, not just about Nigeria. We've never experienced this before. In the last 20 years, Africa has largely been grown. We've never had this type of shock before. And I think those type of shocks tend to destabilize economies, and therefore it takes some time for the policies to be developed to address the problems. I think what's very important is what is the quality of the policy response? Is it the right policy? And I think the answer is yes. Doing the right things, trying to do what the report suggested, fiscal consolidation, investment in infrastructure, all the things that are needed to get economies growing again is what we're doing. So I think the ERGP, as you've said, is now out. It's now about implementation. We're very confident that the budget is days away from being signed, and we're ready to begin the next batch of capital releases to continue the stimulus to the economy that we started last year, and we will continue until the economy really returns to growth.
Fielding questions from journalists at the press briefing after the launch of the reports, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, said the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan is a bold plan by the government to get the economy on the path of recovery and growth.
The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan is a document that has very bold policies enshrined in it. And we are very committed to it. Government, both the monetary and fiscal authorities have been very clear that we will work very hard to ensure that the contents of those documents are implemented as fast as possible, so that we can begin to see our way to recovery and out of the current crisis.
Speaking earlier, Director of Monetary Policy Department, Central Bank of Nigeria, Moses Tule, said policy prescription remains very loose and it poses the danger of slowing the country's economic recovery efforts. Tule, who said Nigeria's growth pattern may not follow the report, added that delayed policy response and uncoordinated policy implementation is critical to Nigeria's recovery. He therefore called for full implementation of the plan.
In the case of Nigeria, the report signposts what it refers to as the outlook for 2017 by projecting a GDP of 0.8% at end fiscal 2017, inflation to remain elevated at 17.5%, fiscal deficits, the ratio of GDP to rise to 5%, trade balance to, however, improve to 1.5%, growth in the monetary aggregate, especially broad money, at 19.2%, broad money to GDP ratio to rise to 23.1%, and reserves to months of imports cover at 5.5 months, and then a current account surplus at end year at 1%. These are the views as enunciated in the report, but we think that our conditions might slightly not follow the path as shown in the report for very obvious reasons. One, we think that conditions in 2017, the outcomes would be slightly different from what is projected for fiscal 2017. So we think that if we're implemented, we might have better outcomes, but delayed policy responses and uncoordinated implementation would hurt growth and indeed take us towards the path as predicted in the report. But given all the effort that have been put into the preparation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and the financial outlay which government intends to put in place for the implementation of that plan with all the resources, we do think that the outcomes might be a bit different.
The IMF, in its regional economic outlook on sub-Saharan Africa launched in Abuja, growth momentum for the region remained fragile. According to the reports, growth slowed in about two-thirds of the countries in the region, accounting for 83% of the regional GDP, and it is estimated to reach 1.5%. The report further noted that modest rebound to 2.5% expected in 2017 will be to a large extent driven by one-off factors in the three countries, Angola, Nigeria, and South Africa. On the other hand, Western and Eastern African countries still expected to grow at 5% to 7.5%. Awesome Raffle, Ben Television.
Hi, Mike.
Babe, it's been over 12 hours. Are you done thinking about it? Is the answer yes?
Convince me.
I know how much confident style mean to you. Let me take you somewhere.
What's that?
A superior leading international hospitality chain in the heart of Africa.
And?
They offer very distinct services. Their meeting halls and all their hotels offer conference solutions that can help plan a perfect function for any occasion. They feature outdoor catering and provide services for any size event.
Keep going. You got me thinking now.
The beauty, the decor, and the views. It's the hotel experience you always dreamed of. They have up-to-date entertainment and a variety served at the fast food restaurant and snack bar. Oh, and don't even get me started on the garden bar or the nightclub. You would have everything you need within your reach without having to go out.
Wow. So what if I want to...
Cook? They got you, babe. The rooms are thoughtfully furnished with facilities that aid proper cooking, just like you would at home.
Where is this place?
And it's sweets.
Wow.
So, will you marry me?
Yes. How can I refuse?
Not at Sweets, a colorful affair.
The Nigerian Senate has passed the bill for an act to provide for transaction in movable assets. The bill, according to the Senate, will stimulate the economy and give access to funds for young entrepreneurs. The bill, which seeks to establish National Collateral Registry, will provide unfiltered access to finance for SME across the country and thereby accelerate economic growth.
The entire concept is about the creation, protection, and enforcement of security interests in movable property. A security interest is a credit transaction which enables a creditor to hold interest in the debtor's movable property for securing the payment of a loan or a debt obligation created by the transaction.
The bill was passed after a clause-by-clause consideration of its provision in the Committee of the Whole. The House of Representatives is also on the verge of passing the same bill. The legislation, according to the President of the Senate, Saraki, is all about addressing credit availability for small and medium enterprises.
A bill for an act to provide for secure transaction, registration and regulation of security interests in movable assets and for related matters 2017 is already the third time I'm passed. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank the sponsor of the bill, the Chairman, Banking and Insurance, and all of us that contributed to this debate. This is a very important bill again, all about trying to address the issue of making credit available, especially for small and medium-scale enterprises, individuals who might not have fixed assets as part of securing some transaction. This way again would help us in getting our economy moving. And I want to thank all that contributed. I'll continue the pledge to Nigerians to provide laws that will stimulate the economy and make access to credit for our young entrepreneurs. Thank you.
According to the World Bank, there are about 37 million micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in Nigeria who contribute a lot to economic growth, development, and job creation. However, many of these smaller businesses struggle to gain access to capital they needed to grow and prosper, since they lack traditional collateral such as land and building. For National Assembly Complex, Muyiwa Bamdele reporting.
Federal government has inaugurated a new governing council of 23 federal universities with a charge to broaden the internally generated revenue base and ensure the judicious application of revenue as the country is currently facing economic challenges. The inauguration of the council is coming on the heels of the completion of the tenure of the immediate past governing councils appointed in April 2013 by the previous administration. Minister of Education Malam Adamu, while inaugurating the council board members in Abuja, said federal government would dissolve any council that failed in its statutory responsibility.
I charge you all to study these laws, statutes, government policies, government white papers, circulars, gazettes, and other documents that will assist you in taking decisions that will move you. In addition, it will help you to avoid conflict between the council and other organs and stakeholders in the university. Ladies and gentlemen, the tertiary education sector is very critical to the actualization of the agenda of this government. In fact, it's very, very central to the achievement of the goals of any government, especially now that the world is going knowledge economy. I think emphasis on universities.
Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, while congratulating the council members, called on them to be committed and ensure that the universities under their watch compete with the global standard.
These two scenarios notwithstanding, the National Universities Commission will continue to make itself available to the governing councils to ensure that they succeed in the task of providing effective, efficient, and credible governance in Nigerian universities.
Enumerated by the minister. The educational system is facing serious challenges, one of which is the issue of finance. Government, in collaboration with the legislature, have been doing the best we could to ensure adequate funding. But of course, we must also appreciate the fact that there are leakages either deliberately or undeliberately. We have caused a various visits we undertook to discharge or in discharging our functions, via oversight, and truly speaking, there is need for us to really bottle off.
The Governing Council is the highest policy-making organ of the university with an overall responsibility for making statutes for the organization, policy, development, financing, and general management of the university. In Abuja, LM Chukwemeka reports.